Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I've been gone away so long that I started wondering, do I welcome myself back? I think I do. I am back, and rather than diving in straight away and starting to talk about books and stuff, I wanted to explain my hiatus. So sometimes life flows, and when it does, Booktube feels like a breeze. And even the times when it's sort of like stop start with this didn't work, but that did, then it doesn't feel difficult. But it has felt difficult because life has not been flowing easily for the last 3 months for me. And so I stripped back everything to focus on and put all my focus on work, family, friends, pet. Anything else that wasn't related to that, pretty much I downscaled. Now, my first 2 months that I was away was actually COVID related because I caught COVID at the end of January. So that was all a health related absence. But if it was just that, I would have been back in April, and it was not that. It carried on, and we're now at the 1st of May. So, speaking of which, I'm back on the 1st of May, but I didn't plan it this way. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think a lot of what I'll be talking about will resonate with the message of this month's emphasis on caring for our well-being, because a lot of what I've been doing has been going towards that for myself. So, looking back at events in January, that really acted as a catalyst month for making a lot of changes in my life. A process of reflection, reevaluation, and new action sort of took place. And I think I can pinpoint it to just after I had attended my friend's funeral in January, and the service was beautiful and a real celebration of life. And on the journey back in the car, I started thinking about priorities in my life, goals, and all sorts. So I don't think it's unusual that I felt vulnerable and in that frame of mind, thinking about the unpredictability of life. It made me more conscious of how I spend my time and who I choose to spend it with. So, the day after the funeral, I had booked a day trip to London as a birthday treat to a friend who loves the Victoria and Albert Museum. I had never been, and we had a fabulous time, but ended up horribly, horribly sick, the both of us, with COVID-19, which was the second time for both of us. So she had migraine, sore throat, and exhaustion. And I had exhaustion and several weeks of disequilibrium and nausea. So weeks later, I also lost my voice. I took a week off from work, and thankfully, when I was back, I didn't have to commute as my team's contract changed to home working from office based. So that was, really lucky. Still, doing things like walking my dog left me far more tired, exhausted, drained than it should do. And being forced to drastically cut down what I was doing made me far more mindful. And I started thinking about why am I doing certain things in a certain way? Is it habit? Is it intentional? Not an easy thing to do with brain fog from COVID. So I had multiple thoughts, brain fog, and then when I tried to actually read, I didn't have the concentration to do that. I started so many books in this period and didn't finish them. However, I did manage to read Princess Barry, and that's thanks to discussions with Dia from Novel Idea. Now, if it hadn't been for this buddy read and discussions with Dia, then I doubt that I would have read this to the end. I would have paused on the book, especially because it has really heavy themes. It deals with a woman who flees North Korea and lives as an illegal immigrant in the UK. So, not necessarily a book I was expecting to finish in comparison to the ones I had started and DNF'd. Yeah, I think it's important to be transparent about, when we find times challenging rather than just talking about all the good times. And it might help someone else to know they're not alone in finding things difficult. I meant to film while I was actually feeling down and out, but I can't do it. It's a level of vulnerability I'm just not comfortable with, and I just accepted that I felt more comfortable to use the community tab to, update people rather than post videos. I prefer to build up my resilience before I can actually talk about things having been hard. So it's when it's in the past I can talk about it. I very rarely share when something's actually going wrong at the time. And that isn't, I recognize, a healthy thing to do. We're encouraged to do better for our mental health and well-being. We're encouraged to actually ask those we trust for help. So if, like me, you try to sort stuff out all on your own, try to cut yourself some slack sometimes, try something different, maybe ask for help. I didn't manage to do it this time, but hey, self-care and self-compassion are essential to our well-being. And I have been prioritizing my well-being more than I have in years. Now, I say this like downtime was an easy thing for me to take. It really wasn't, and I had a lot of false starts in February and March. If I had a burst of energy on the odd weekend, I wanted to tackle home improvements in my surroundings. Some small things I posted about on the community tab on this channel, like decluttering my closet, and then other bigger ones I didn't post about, like repainting my office from the dark blue that it was. And I didn't post about that because I haven't finished. I'm mid paint. My energy totally ran out, and I was flat like a pancake. It made me empathize even more with two people I know that suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome. So it was a wake up call again. I slowed myself down again and suddenly started to see certain decisions I was making were almost set on autopilot for myself. They are not necessarily bad decisions, just I could do with making different ones from my norm, and I have been doing that since then. So, cue the unpredictable nature of life, and imagine you and I are driving my 15-year-old car on a busy road, and suddenly we hear rattle, 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 clunk, which is what happened when a hubcap failed to materialize, like shooting off into the distance in front of me. I was like, what the heck was that? And I headed to my local garage and they said, oh, rattle, rattle, clunk, tire spring. And they were right. Then they found the other one, passenger side needed a tire spring as well. And then they found more repairs that were needed. And my instinct, and the usual thing I'd do is go ahead with those repairs. And that's when I reevaluated what has changed in the last 10 years since I bought that car when I was 5 years old. At that time, it met all of my needs. Did it still meet those needs? I was tempted, really, really tempted, just to go, you know what, I want to use this car until it's totally unable to go further because I like to use things up. I'd rather replace parts than a car. I had to accept, though, that my circumstances were not the same as 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I didn't have to access the back seat as often as I do now to get Milo in and out of the car in the dog seat. I've had many sessions having to contort myself while settling him in the back because the car doesn't have back doors. Also, my usual passengers are all 10 years older as well, and the same car was fine then, but now it's too low for someone whose arthritis affects their mobility, and they were able to get in and out okay 10 years ago, they're not able to now. And once I realized that, and reevaluated everything. I went, actually, I'm not wanting a new car. It's not wasteful to go for a new secondhand car. I actually need it for where I am now and where we all are. So the car salesman called this car a reliable, no frills, basic car. And I was like, no frills. I mean, this car has got electric side mirrors. I don't have to adjust them from outside, and there's little things. The lights are a lot better at night. So I'm very pleased that I made that decision, even if my bank account isn't. But yeah. And then, like the questions I had about my car, I started to ask myself, does my job suit my circumstances today? I still feel value in a lot of aspects of the work, but after weighing everything up, I decided to leave. And I say that casually as if it were casual. It was not. I can't afford early retirement, but I made that decision. I have now finished and I'm going to be working on short term projects through a temping agency. And that is, a weird feeling to be with a temping agency after having been where I was for 10 years. It was such a close call between deciding to stay and to go. It will be a big, big difference, and we'll see what the future brings. I'm trying not to think too far ahead and imagine too many scenarios with this. My personality type likes to think through a lot of scenarios, and that's not always the best thing to do because things sometimes play out really, really like, oh, I'm almost psychic. And sometimes it's like, yeah, no, I didn't get that right at all. So I'm going to try and lean into the uncertainty for a change. And it's been a long while since I have leaned into uncertainty, especially when I know that I have got so many things that are falling into disrepair and needing repair. So just like my car needed replacing, I have got a 13-year-old fence that needs replacing and various other things. And I'm hoping that my planning side of my personality has covered things off okay. But yeah, I'm not, you know, feeling 100% confident, but I want to take a leap of faith, which is not really the sort of thing I tend to do. This is not at all easy for me, and I have a lot of self doubt. So, speaking of self doubt, I do want to talk about something else in terms of work. I had this lovely email from someone I line managed, and it got me really emotional because I've done my best to be a good line manager for all these years. But I have always had this hum of self doubt, or if you want to call it imposter syndrome, in the back of my mind. And they wrote down not just, thank you and goodbye. They wrote down a lot of stuff that I've done as a manager over the years, and it meant a lot to me. So I don't know. It kind of also inspired me. I was thinking, how often do we do that? We don't do that very often. To express appreciation to someone for the good stuff that they've done and helped you with. So yeah, I think that's probably one thing that I want to reflect on as well, and reach out to people and kind of give them that sort of boost as well. But anyway, yeah, so I'm digressing, but that is my news. Thank you so much for your patience. I will be having new content coming out on the channel soon, and I just appreciate that you stuck around. Uh, Let me know your thoughts. Do you have some experiences you want to share? Is 2023 a change year for you? Let me know and take care. Bye.